You're listening to Kerry Lutz's Financial Survival Network, where you get valuable information you just can't find anywhere else. To thrive in today's trying times, you need the Financial Survival Network, now more than ever. Go to financialsurvivalnetwork.com and get your free newsletter and gift. Financial Survival Network, now more than ever.
Welcome, and you are listening to and watching the Financial Survival Network. I'm Kerry Lutz. Today is 12/13/21. Our good friend Todd Bubba Horwitz is with us today, and we're going to go over the 5 reasons why precious metals will go higher. Todd, great to have you back. If you got a question for Todd, shoot me an email to kl@kerrylutz.com.
What do you say, Kerry? It's great to be back and always great to be with you. And listen, you know, we know that precious metals will go higher. And, you know, I think if you want reason number one, we know the Fed, which is totally clueless anyways, but they're going to hike rates most likely on Wednesday, and which is fine. They need to, because we've got 2 choices to try to taper this inflation, which is either the easy one, which is to go back to fracking and shale producing, or raise interest rates. And typically interest rate hike is not very good for precious metals, but history has proven that they do rally quite a bit after the rate hikes settle down and we get used to them.
All right, so that's number one. And number 2 is we got these incredible deficits that show no sign of abating. They're only going to go higher, right?
It's only going to get worse. This is, you know, the real problem, Kerry, is when you don't report numbers accurately, when you come up with some garbage CPI number at 7%, which is really BS because of the way they count everything and they exclude food and energy out of those numbers. You know, what is your number one expense in for the average family besides after the mortgage, and the core expenses of your food and energy? You know, unless you live in New York and don't have a car, but if you anywhere you live, energy is twice as much as it was a year ago. I mean, if you drink coffee in the morning, coffee is 120% higher than it was a year ago. So look, at the end of the day, when you continue to lie about numbers and try to pretend because you're ignorant and because you have stupid economists telling you something, it can only be good for the price of precious metals in the long run.
Exactly. And hey, not to mention housing costs. They don't really calculate housing costs. What they calculate is imputed rent. So how much you would pay to rent your own home, which I don't know many people that rent to themselves, but there are a few people out there, maybe if you have a trust or something like that. But the idea that housing costs are somehow under control when we've seen rents up 30% year on year is just the height of self-delusion. Hey, number 3, let's not forget that industrial production around the world is going down. Arguably, China recession. None of that can be good for fiat money. That's only going to benefit gold, isn't it?
What production? You know,
yeah, right.
We don't even have a supply chain that works anymore. So what production are we going to have? Again, all the reasons that we're listing so far are good for gold and silver and others in the longer term. As you know, I think that, you know, we go through cycles in markets and we have markets that trade. And right now, the precious metals happen to be in a downtrend. But I think that's really, if you're an investor and can invest without, you know, looking at the daily spot price, which is a flaw in many investors, then you'll be very happy if you buy gold today, because it will be much higher years from now.
No question. Hey, I would say number 4 would be the impending or the protracted decline of the euro, which, even though the euro might be if the U.S. is the gold standard, no pun intended, then certainly the euro is the silver. It's the number 2 fiat currency in the world. But it really is declining at a rapid rate. A lot of issues there. That in itself has to be pro hard asset.
Well, I don't know how you can name any fiat currency, any standard other than crap. You know, when they took the gold standard away and they started manipulating and they had the ability to freely manipulate the dollars again around the world, because, you know, listen, the Fed is not the only guilty party here. Every central bank around the globe has been manipulating their own currencies, reducing the value trying to cover up the ignorance of the way that they do business, because not one of them understands how business actually works and what true supply and demand is. They know how to print money and create debt. And as we like to say, governments and fiat currency and central banks are takers, not makers.
Yeah, and we've become a world of takers, certainly a country of takers. Hey, number 5, the kind of demise here of the Chinese real estate market and the pressure that that's going to put on the world's second largest, arguably the first largest economy in the world. There's definitely issues taking place there that we in our perch here in the United States don't really understand.
Well, and not only that, Kerry, I mean, but listen, there's so many things that we are doing wrong, even in this country throughout the globe. I mean, China's got their own agenda. They've got their 100-year plan. They're willing to suffer through anything, because at the end of the day, it's not about the masses, it's about the few. China is obviously, and for human rights, the most mistreated people in the world, yet nobody really cares. Nobody really talks about it. But I think when you look at the bigger picture, we have given up everything as a power, and our allies are laughing at us. And that would be a very good reason to start to, see the rise in metal prices as well. I think that you're starting to see, even the cryptocurrencies, which we're not talking about today, but that's part of it. They're showing you that they don't believe in the value of paper money anymore, which is probably a pretty smart idea here, because the value of paper money will be good for one thing. And since we can't get toilet paper in a lot of places, you might be able to use your paper money because that's about what it's worth.
Hey, what's the longest running fiat currency on record here? I think it's getting close to the US dollar now. I mean, it didn't used to be a fiat currency, but since 71, in the past 50 years, it's clearly become a fiat currency.
Well, that's the system that it was created to hide stupidity. I mean, when you really look at it, that's what, they try to hide through that. But if you look at your own life, and if you're old enough to remember, even the 80s, okay, your dollars went a hell of a lot farther in the 80s than they go today. And that's a bigger problem. It has been created not just by this administration, but through all administrations going forward, because once you gave them the power to manipulate and lower value and print money at will, this is what you created. And it is not a pretty picture, which is why we will see, the precious metals rise. Now, again, right now they're in a downtrend. And I mean, I'm short the paper stuff, but I am still long and will continue to buy the physical stuff.
Hey, same here. Agreed. And eventually the companies that hopefully produce the gold and silver are going to profit accordingly. We're starting to see increased M&A activity in the sector. And to me, if there was a sixth reason, that would be it. We just saw a huge acquisition of Great Bear Resources, and in Canada, that's another indication that stuff is happening that the vast majority of humanity unaware of.
Don't just survive, thrive. The Financial Survival Network.
Silver One Resources is an exploration and development company backed by strategic investors Eric Sprott and SSR Mining. At Silver One's Candelaria Mine project in Nevada, there is already a historic resource estimated at 127 million ounces of silver, which Silver One is developing and advancing. The company's Phoenix Silver project, located within the Arizona Silver Belt, is an early-stage exploration project on which native silver vein fragments have been discovered near surface. One grab sample assayed an astounding 14,688 ounces per ton. Yes, that's right, ounces, not grams. Silver One has tremendous exploration potential, is extremely leveraged to the price of silver, and is cashed up and poised to increase shareholder value. Silver One trades in New York under the ticker SLVRF and in Toronto under the ticker SVE. To learn more, go to silverone.com. That's silverone.com.
This is the Financial Survival Network, the information you need to thrive now more than ever.
No, look, again, now, M&A can be one of two things too, though. Don't remember, it could be, companies are starting to lose value and they're running out of capital. But I do believe in what you're saying. And I do think that in this case, the M&A acquisitions are bullish for the bullion, as they say. And again, I just think it takes time. We still have a very hot stock market despite today's sell-off. And, as long as the market remains hot, money's going to flow there first. And that's, right or wrong, that is the way that people think. They don't understand the other asset groups, and that, like, you have to have other food groups. You also have to own some other asset groups as well.
Hey, and I read somewhere that this year 20 times more money went into the stock market than in the past 20 years combined. Something to that effect.
Think about where else you're going to go, right? I mean, you're not going to go to bonds. So it's either precious metals, which, remember, hard assets, as good as they are not always liquid. And if you were forced to sell them for a reason at some point, you probably wouldn't be happy, because they probably had been declining in value, which had forced you to sell. So it's always an interesting dichotomy that goes on in the market structure. And as we know, many investors are like sheep. And right now, every time the market's dipped, you've seen buyers come in, and we've been able to take out the highs. At some point, that will cease to happen, and the markets will tank, and we will see a massive sell-off. And, gold will have its moves up and it's down. But when you're talking about steadiness, it is one of the steadiest assets, even with its ups and downs throughout history.
Absolutely. And, we had talked before about how inflationary the whole stimulus was, and everything the government did to react to the damage that they imposed upon the economy. And now we're reaping the fruits of that.
You got a bottle of Excedrin for me for this? I mean,
I think you need something a little stronger, but
this is a joke. What's going on here is a joke, Kerry. This is ridiculous for no reason, except to do one thing, which is really what I think that this administration by itself has in mind, which is trying to create universal basic income. So instead of, they're masking and hiding behind the Green New Deal, instead of letting us go back to fracking and oil producing, since, we have to be dependent on Saudi Arabia, and they can't wait to help us out. They can stick a knife on our back, they would. And, this is a problem, because basically what this administration has done is handed the power over to Russia, and they are burning the garbage out of the UK and Germany with these high natural gas prices. Saudi Arabia, which is, sticking it to us pretty good with the high oil prices. And of course, China, which is ceased doing everything to help us, period. And so you see that the world is taking our power, which we should have never released. And of course, not to mention, we're opening up the borders and letting everybody come in, so.
Yeah, all these good things. All bodes well for gold. Hey, we'll see what happens. The final chapter for the country, for the world, has yet to be written. Every time we thought it was over, something happens. It reminds me of what Winston Churchill supposedly said, that God looks after children, drunks, in the United States of America, and probably repeated ourselves in saying that. There's a lot of people that have a lot of growing up to do, Todd, because you just don't understand the forces at work, and you think the market goes up every day, then life is good, right?
Hey, as long as I can make the monthly car payment and the monthly house payment, I'm in good shape. And that's one of the problems. Look, what we will overcome. I think that we'll see some dramatic changes coming up. But for right now, we are weak, and we are showing weakness. And that is a concern in the short run here. But I think that, the United States will eventually be able to regroup and get back to the top of the heap. But for right now, there's a lot of scary stuff going on out there, and it's very concerning. It should be concerning to everybody, which is sad that it's not.
Yeah, well, our leaders, their finite wisdom is really showing now. Hey, Todd, want to subscribe to your site? Want to connect with you? Where do you go?
You can go to BubbaTrading.com, and we've got everything listed up there, including my daily update I do every day, via video. And also, if you want to reach out to me direct, just email me at Bubba@BubbaTrading.com and just mention Kerry, so I know where you're from, and I'll be happy to help you or answer any questions you have.
All right. And if you got any emails for me, KL@KerryLutz.com. Sign up for your free newsletter, FinancialSurvivalNetwork.com. Todd, always great to connect with you. Always enjoy it. We'll talk to you again real soon.
Thanks, Kerry. Thanks for having me, and happy holidays, man.
Hey, you too.
Thanks for listening to Kerry Lutz's Financial Survival Network, your solution to today's trying times. For the latest, go to financialsurvivalnetwork.com. Financial Survival Network, now more than ever.